Hello, I'm Hank Green. Welcome to Crash Course Chemistry. Today, we're talking about the most important table ever. Not the table where they signed the Declaration of Independence, nor any table of contents, nor this table right here, nor the stone table of Aslan. Nay, it is the periodic table of elements, a concise, information-dense catalog of all of the different sorts of atoms in the universe. Today, I want to talk a bit about the creation of this table, which is, to be clear, one of the crowning achievements of human thought. To start out, though, let's close our eyes and pretend. Imagine you're in Siberia, and you're a 13-year-old boy, and your father, who was a professor but had gone blind, leaving your family of more than 10 brothers and sisters destitute, has just died. I know, downer. Your mom, to support the family, has reopened an abandoned glass-making factory in the small town where you live, largely because she wants to make enough money to send you to school someday. A year passes, the factory burns down. But your mom, she sees your potential. She knows that you have a keen scientific mind and will not see that squandered. So, with your siblings out of the house and on their own, she packs up your belongings, straps them to a horse, and with you in tow, rides 1,200 miles through the Ural Mountains on horseback to a university in Moscow. There, on your behalf, she pleads earnestly and effectively, and they reject you. So together, you ride another 400 miles to St. Petersburg, to the school where your father graduated as a scientist, and as luck, or extreme, insane, undeniably Russian persistence would have it, they accept you, and your saddle-worn butt, as a pupil. Your mother, having completed her mission, promptly dies. If you're doing your imagining as I've told you, you might feel a tremendous debt to your mother and a very deep desire to ensure that you achieve something on par with the sacrifices she made for you. And maybe that's one reason why Dmitri Ivanovich Mendeleev became the crown jewel of Russian science and a theorist who revolutionized how we see the world. Mendeleev spent a great deal of time in laboratories as a student, studying the burgeoning new field of chemistry. He worked with all the elements that you could work with at the time, and his knowledge gave him unique insights into their properties. Those insights would come in handy. Let's all imagine we're Mendeleev again. I like doing that. And that we know a bunch of stuff about chemistry, which, you don't yet. But we're imagining. So it's the 1860s, and about 60 elements are known to mankind, and their atomic weights are mostly known as well. So the simplest thing was just to sort them in order of their atomic weights. But interestingly, you, because you're clever pants, realized that the most significant relationships seem to have nothing to do with the atomic weight. Lithium, sodium, potassium, and rubidium were all extremely prone to reacting with chlorine, fluorine, iodine, and bromine. Beryllium, magnesium, calcium, and strontium were all similar but less reactive. But with a quick inspection, you, and to be fair, a number of other chemists, realized that there was a relationship between atomic weights, but it's periodic. At the beginning of the list of elements, characteristics repeat every 7 elements. On a side here, we now know that it's every 8 elements, but in the 1860s, elements were studied based on their reactivity, so the non-reactive noble gases had not yet been discovered, so the period occurred every 7 elements. As the mass of the elements increases, the repetition starts to look a little less periodic, though it's certainly still there, it just isn't perfect. Some of your colleagues, they're saying, well, such is life. It was perfect repetition early on, but later in the list it gets a little fuzzier. But not you. You become obsessed. Obsessed with the perfection of the periodicity. You write out the names and weights and properties of elements on cards, you lay them across your desk, shuffle them, tear them to pieces in frustration until one day you realize that you're simply missing cards. The numbers aren't working, not because there's something wrong with your ideas, but because some elements simply haven't been discovered yet. Armed with this insight, you insert gaps into the table, and things suddenly fall perfectly into place. 7 element periods for the first 2 rows with hydrogen in its own category, 18 element periods for the next 2 rows. You're so certain that you predict the properties of these missing elements, and when a French scientist comes along and says that he has in fact discovered one of them, you argue with him, saying that you discovered it first in your mind. And when you see his data, and it doesn't match yours, you publish a paper saying his data for the new element he discovered is wrong. That's how certain you are of yourself and this beautiful new theoretical framework you've created. And you know what the really crazy thing is? You're right! That French guy's data was wrong! You, never having examined the element he discovered, knew more about it than he did. Because you are Mendeleev, master of the elements.